Hi and welcome to class 3 of my English grammar course. And what I would like to do today is I would like to compare the present simple, which we saw in class 1, with the present continuous, which we saw in class 2. So today we're going to compare these two present tenses. So first of all, here we have the basic rule that we saw in the previous two classes. Remember, use the present simple for facts or general truths, and use the present continuous for things happening now or unfinished activities. So let's have a look at some of the examples here. First of all, we have he has a shower every day. This is in the present simple because it's a habit or a routine. We saw in class 1 that we used the present simple for habits or routines. But if we say he's having a shower, that means it's happening now. The present continuous is for things happening now, and the present simple is for habits or routines. It rains a lot in Britain. This is in the present simple. It's a fact. It's a general truth, so we use the present simple. And it's raining means that it's raining now. It's in the present continuous. I put here the word now in brackets to emphasize it, but of course it's not necessary, because if we say it's raining, we imply that it's raining now. We mean that it's raining now because it's in the present continuous. And here we have a couple of questions. Remember the difference between these two questions. What do you do and what are you doing? Remember, what do you do is a question in the present simple. We need to use the auxiliary verb do plus the subject plus the main verb, which in this case is also do. And this question, can anyone remember what this question means? Remember, what do you do means what's your job or what's your profession. If somebody asks me, what do you do? I can reply, I'm a teacher. And what are you doing is now. What are you doing in this moment? For example, if you ask me these two questions, the first one, as I said, is what do you do? The answer is I'm a teacher. And if you ask me what are you doing, the answer would be I'm making a video for YouTube, or I'm teaching English on YouTube. Let's move over to this here. This is something new that we didn't see previously. It says use the present simple for permanent situations and the present continuous for temporary situations. So this is new information that we didn't see in the previous two sections. If you say, for example, my parents live in Australia, you are using the present simple and you imply that they have lived in Australia for a long time and they live in Australia permanently. But if you say my parents are living in Australia, you imply that it's a temporary situation. Here I've put at the moment, which emphasizes it, but it's not absolutely necessary, because just by using the present continuous tense you imply that it's a temporary situation. How temporary? That depends on the speaker. I mean, it could be that they are spending 1 year in Australia or 1 month. It doesn't really matter too much about the time, although obviously if it was a really long time, like 10 years, then you wouldn't really consider it to be a temporary situation. So it's up to the speaker to decide if it's a temporary situation or not. Here we have another example. I go to work by car. This means that my normal routine is to travel to my work by car. But here I say my car isn't working at the moment, so I'm taking the bus. This is a temporary situation. I usually go to work by car, but because my car isn't working, I'm taking the bus. So before we continue, let's just look at the adverb of frequency, always. And we already saw that this adverb can be used in the present simple along with the other adverbs of frequency like never, sometimes, occasionally, etc. However, we can use always with the present continuous when we want to complain or say something happens too much. Here I have some examples. It always rains in England. This sentence is in the present simple and it is just a statement of fact. The second sentence says, I'm always losing my keys. Here we are using always in the present continuous. And when we use always in the present continuous, the speaker implies that he or she thinks this happens too much. It's like a complaint. If I say, I'm always losing my keys, it's something that I think happens too much. Here, when I said, it always rains in England, it's just a statement of fact. But if I said, it's always raining in England, it means I think it rains in England too much. Okay, now let's move on to this section here. Dynamic verbs and stative verbs. Verbs like run, walk, sleep, eat, dance, teach, etc. are dynamic or action verbs. These verbs can be used in both the continuous and the simple tenses. For example, I can say, I teach English every day. It's in the present simple because it's a routine. And I can also say, I'm teaching English right now. It's in the present continuous because it's happening now. So many verbs in English are dynamic verbs. They are like actions. And if a verb is an action or a dynamic verb, it can be used in simple or continuous tenses. However, some verbs are not actions, but states. These verbs are known as stative verbs and cannot be used in the continuous tenses. Stative verbs include understand, know, want, love, hate, prefer, belong. Understand I've put 2 times, I don't know why. Remember and need. So many verbs in English do not actually describe actions, they describe states. For example, looking at the first example, understand, you either understand this or you don't understand it. It's a state. There are 2 possible states. You can understand it or you can't understand it. It's not an action. So if we see underneath, you can say, I understand this, but you cannot say, I am understanding this. You cannot use this type of verb in the present continuous tense or in any continuous tense. And in future classes, we will see other continuous tenses like the past continuous, the future continuous, the present perfect continuous, etc. So basically, to summarize this, there are 2 types of verbs. Dynamic verbs which describe actions and stative verbs which describe states. Do not use stative verbs in the continuous tense, irrespective of the rules that we have seen previously. Here I have some more examples. For example, know, I know John is correct. You either know John or you don't know John. It's a state. I'm knowing John is incorrect. You cannot use the verb know in the present continuous tense because it's a stative verb. I want something to eat. Want is another stative verb. You can say I want something to eat. You cannot say I'm wanting something to eat. Another example, love and hate. Steve hates his job. You can say Steve hates his job in the present simple, but you cannot say Steve is hating his job. Now, I just put this note down here because some people are going to say, hey, but I've seen the word understanding or I've seen the word loving. Well, don't get confused because sometimes the ing form of the verb is used as a noun. For example, in this sentence here, you can say understanding this is important. But in this sentence, understanding is not a verb, it's a noun. It's a noun, and the verb in this sentence is. So understanding this is important because you're not actually using the continuous tense here. Remember, in the continuous tense, you would need the verb be before this. So understanding this is important is correct, but I'm understanding this is incorrect because you cannot use understanding in the present continuous tense. Just before we finish this section on dynamic verbs and stative verbs and this slide, let's just have a look at this because some verbs could be dynamic or stative depending on their use. For example, have and think. Some verbs obviously have more than one meaning. Have. I have a car. This is in the simple tense. You cannot say I am having a car because have, when it's used for possession, is a stative verb. But you could say I'm having a good time. Here you're not using have to talk about possession exactly. You're using it to talk about an experience. You could also use the verb have with food and drink and say, I'm having a drink of water. So have, when it's used for possession, is stative, but other uses of have could be dynamic. Think is another example. Here, I'm thinking about this exercise. The use of think here is to describe a process in your brain or a process in your mind. So it's dynamic. I'm thinking about this exercise. But here, in this sentence, I think it's going to rain. Here, think is used to express opinion. It's like saying, in my opinion, it's going to rain. And here, think is stative. So there are other verbs that could be stative or dynamic depending on their use. Okay, very good. So before we finish the present simple and the present continuous, let's have a look at some exercises. So here I have 12 questions and I have 12 verbs up here. Come, run, work, drive, shine, do 2 times, freeze, still, believe, like and visit. So here on this side to help you, I have some dictionary definitions of these verbs. And what you need to do in these 12 questions is put the correct verb in the correct form. The 2 possible forms would be the present simple or the present continuous. So I think the best way to do this is if I display all the answers at once. That means I'm going to put all the answers on the screen at the same time, and then I'm going to go through the answers one by one and explain why they're in the present simple or why they're in the present continuous. So the best thing to do is for you right now to pause the video and try and answer the 12 questions and then restart the video and see if you have the answers correct. So let me count down from 5 and then reveal the answers. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And there we have all the answers. So just check how many you got correct and let's have a look at the reasons. So in number 1, the answer is we like to learn English. Basically here the verb is like and it's in the present simple, and the reason it's in the present simple is because like is a stative verb. Number 2, this is like a little conversation. So A said, let's go. That means let's leave now. So if you see this expression, it's now. This is an expression that will be used now in this moment. So the answer needs to be in the present continuous. And the answer is with the verb come. Okay, I'm coming. Number 3. Number 3 is a question in the present simple. What do you do? Remember, we've seen this question before. This question is asking you about your job or your profession. The answer here is I'm a teacher. Number 4. The answer is shining. Shine, to produce or reflect light, to be bright. When we say in English the sun is shining, we mean that it's sunny outside. It's not cloudy. This answer here is let's go to the beach. So it's like number 2. The person is saying let's go. If a person says let's go, it means let's go now. So this is happening now. The sun is shining now. It's not cloudy now. The next one. Do you believe in God? Do you believe in God? It's in the present simple because believe is a stative verb. We cannot say, are you believing in God? Number 6, what are you doing? I'm teaching. The answer is in the present continuous. I'm teaching, so we can imply that it must be happening now. The question must also be in the present continuous. Look at the difference and remember the difference between number 3, what do you do? I'm a teacher. And what are you doing? I'm teaching. Number 7. He usually drives to work. Here we know that this one is in the present simple because it has the adverb of frequency usually. And if you have an adverb of frequency like usually, sometimes, never, then it's going to be in the present simple. The exception to that, of course, is the adverb of frequency always, which we saw in the previous section, can be used in the present continuous as well as the present simple. Number 8, Maria is unemployed. Maria is unemployed, and the answer is she isn't working at the moment. This one needs to be in the continuous tense because we have this time expression at the moment. Time expressions like at the moment, now, right now, currently, presently, they are time expressions that nearly always go with the present continuous tense. Look, that man is stealing your bicycle. The verb is steal, and because it says look, it's an exclamation. It's look now. It means it's happening now, so we need to use the present continuous. Number 10, water freezes at 0 degrees Celsius. So this, of course, is a statement of fact. Statements of fact, we need to use the present simple. Number 11, I'm visiting my parents this weekend. If you remember from the previous class, when we looked at the present continuous, we saw that the present continuous can also be used to talk about future arrangements. That's like plans in the future, especially when we talk about arrangements with people. And finally, why are you running? Because I'm late. We know that this one needs to be in the present continuous because the person replies with I'm late, and this is now. I'm late now, so I'm running now. Okay, very good. With that, I think we've finished class 3 of my grammar course. In the next class, I think we will be looking at the past simple tense. So that's all for now. Hope to see you in the next class. Goodbye.